You make $133,000 a year and you still cannot manage to save $100? Sounds unbelievable. But this is real life. Emily is 29, working in marketing, making $62,000 a year. Theo is 31, in information technology, making $71,000 a year. Together, $133,000. They have a 3-year-old named Liam. From the outside, it looks like the classic American playbook. Steady jobs, good income, a young family. But what is it like on the inside? In the morning, Emily rushes Liam to daycare. Theo leaves early to make it on time. At night, both of them come home completely wiped out. The sentence they say the most is not, "How was your day?" but, "Who is picking him up tomorrow?" It sounds like a small question, but it is really a life schedule squeezed so tight there is only room left for logistics. Then on Monday, at 5:40 in the afternoon, the car goes clunk. The transmission is done. The bill, $1,480. Emily swipes the credit card. Theo opens the banking app, stares at the numbers for a few seconds, then asks, "How did it end up like this?" If you have ever seen that scene, or at least felt that feeling, then you get it. Every month you promise, "Next month we will save." But next month is usually just a new loop. Another surprise expense, another thing to handle, another exhausted evening, and the decision of, whatever, just do the faster option. Stop. Look at this math. Estimated take-home pay is about $8,200 a month. Mortgage plus property taxes, $2,850. Liam's daycare, $1,850. Healthcare, $620. 2 cars, $980. Food plus kid stuff, $950. Student loans, $420. Utilities, $380. Total, about $8,030. Left over, $170. $170 for a family of 3. And that is only the basic part. It is not because they are reckless spenders. It is because they are operating on a floor that is simply too high. And that floor is not something you can easily shrink in a single month. And there is also an invisible part that anyone working full-time with a young kid understands. When both of you are exhausted, you end up paying extra for convenience. You eat out because you have no energy left to cook. You get things shipped because you do not have a spare minute to breathe. You buy fast because time feels more valuable than comparing prices. It is not a moral failure. It is just the result of your schedule. 2 incomes sometimes do not buy freedom. They only buy the right to keep running fast enough to stay in it. Do you think Emily and Theo's problem is a lack of discipline? I do not think so. Because if these 2 people with steady jobs and solid income still cannot even catch their breath, then the real question is, who or what is raising the floor of their life? The truth that people rarely say out loud is this: a second income often does not turn into extra comfort. It turns into a whole new set of fixed costs, a more expensive house because both people work, a better school zone because it is for the kid. 2 cars become non-negotiable because of the schedule. And childcare? It is not an option anymore. It is the condition that lets both of them keep getting a paycheck. I call this the 2-income floor trap, when your family needs 2 incomes just to stand still. Sound familiar? Like the harder you try, the more locked in you feel. And the tightest lock is not in the obvious expenses you can point to. It is in the extra costs that show up because you are overloaded. When your energy is low, you cannot optimize anymore. You pick the option with the least friction. And the small thing, repeated every day, becomes a big thing every month. When you were a kid, did you ever hear this? All you need is a stable job, buy a house, raise a child, and you are set. In the previous generation, a lot of families could still make it work with just one person earning money. Not rich, but they had room to breathe. And now? Emily and Theo have 2 paychecks, degrees, and solid careers. And yet, it still feels like running on a treadmill. Lots of sweat, and barely moving forward. Because the cost structure has changed. Back then, most spending was flexible. If money was tight, you could shrink it. Today, most of it is fixed. Housing, cars, healthcare, childcare. If you do not pay, the whole system jams immediately. Short on money back then sounded like, we will eat simple this month. Short on money now sounds like, if we are late on the mortgage this month, we get hit with fees. The difference is this. Now you are not just short on money, you are short on flexibility. And this is what keeps a lot of people stuck for a long time. 2 incomes create the feeling that we can upgrade. But every upgrade locks the floor in tighter. A bigger house because we can handle it with 2 incomes. A better area because it is an investment in our child. 2 cars because we cannot be late for daycare. Each decision makes sense, but together they turn into a cost frame you cannot escape. Here is a real example. If Emily and Theo rented a place that was $400 cheaper, they could breathe, but they chose a better area because of Liam. And with just one decision that is right for your child, the budget gets boxed in. Once you are boxed in, a raise does not create freedom. It creates confidence to box yourself in even more. Do you see yourself in that? Every time your pay goes up, you do not feel richer. You just think, okay, now we can upgrade. And then you end up right back near the same spot. And here is the question that makes everything crystal clear. If you lost 1 income next week, how many months could your family live normally? Not, we could scramble and survive, but live normally. Because these days, the risk is not just prices go up. The risk is the domino effect. Back then, one problem was usually just an inconvenience. Now, one problem can trigger a chain reaction. Car breaks down. You are late for daycare. You get hit with fees. You show up late to work. Stress spikes. You make a quick spending decision. The budget gets thinner. And you are back in the mode of, we just need to get through this month. That is the gap between expectations and reality for a lot of modern young families. You think you are building a life. But sometimes you are building the floor. And when the floor is high, 2 incomes are no longer an advantage. They become the condition for not falling. In the next part, I am going to break down the first mechanism, why the second paycheck looks like extra money, but in reality, it is usually just an illusion. Mechanism number 1 sounds very simple, but it tricks almost every young family. The second income illusion. You look at the paycheck and think, if 1 more person works, that is 1 more stream of money. But in reality, the second income usually goes through a grinder with 3 parts. Part 1, marginal taxes and paycheck deductions. Once a household already has 1 income, the extra income often does not land in your hands in full. So the feeling of, I made an extra $1,000 quickly turns into, our family actually keeps $650 to $750. You work more hours, you feel more exhausted, and yet what you keep is thin. Part 2, childcare. With Liam at 3 years old, daycare is not a convenience. It is the condition that lets both parents keep working. And here is the paradox. For many families, a big chunk of the second person's income is used to buy the right to go to work. Look at an example like Emily. Say Emily brings home about $3,800 a month after deductions. Daycare is $1,850, and you have already lost almost half. Add gas, lunch, parking, wear and tear on the car, and the extra costs that show up when your schedule is stretched tight, and that is another few $100s. And do not forget the day Liam gets sick. Daycare calls and says, "Come pick him up. You miss work, your income drops, but the daycare bill still counts." So what is left from the second income? Maybe $1,000, maybe $800, some months less. And what are you trading for it? Sleep, time, and the feeling that you are always sprinting. Part 3. Time poverty costs or pure exhaustion. This part is invisible, which is exactly why it is the most dangerous. You cannot cook consistently, so you order food. You do not have the energy to compare prices, so you buy the quick option. You cannot handle small tasks yourself, so you pay someone to do it. Each choice feels reasonable, but added up, it becomes a new kind of fixed cost. So the biggest illusion is staring at the total household income and thinking that is your strength. But what determines safety is not total income. It is the gap after the floor. If the floor eats almost everything, two incomes do only one thing. They keep you from falling today. And tomorrow? One surprise event, and you are right back near zero. If this sounds familiar, try answering this quickly. After everything, what is our second income actually left to do? Is it enough to build a 3-month emergency fund? Or is it only enough to patch the months where the schedule gets too tight and extra costs pop up? So when you hear someone say, "We have 2 incomes and we still cannot get ahead," do not jump to conclusions. Ask the right question. After deductions, after childcare, after the costs of maintaining a working life, how much is left? If the answer is not much, that is not just a personal issue. That is a mechanism. Now I am going to raise the difficulty level, because mechanism number 2 is not inside Emily and Theo's home anymore. It is out there, and it has a name: the 2-income arms race. Imagine this. If most families in a city have 2 working adults, what happens? Buying power goes up. More people can afford more. And the market tends to price things at the level that a lot of people can pay. Housing is the easiest example. Emily and Theo did not choose a nicer house or a better neighborhood because they wanted to show off. They chose it because of Liam. Stability, safety, good schools. But when a lot of families are all willing to pay extra in exchange for a better shot for their kid, prices creep up and then creep up again. And that is how choosing a good area slowly turns into having to live in a good area. Not because of pride, because you are afraid your child will lose out. The paradox is this: 2 incomes help you get into the game, but they also make the game more expensive. It is not just housing. Look at childcare. When more parents need full-time daycare, demand rises and prices rise. And childcare is not like shopping. You cannot just cut it for a month. You need it to work. So the loop closes. You work to pay for daycare, and you pay for daycare so you can work. Then there is the car problem and the time problem. When both adults have rigid schedules, a family slowly loses the flexibility to live with one car. Late today, care means fees. Late to a meeting means pressure. So 2 cars becomes the safe choice. But 2 cars means 2 fixed bills: a car payment, insurance, maintenance. You think you are buying convenience. In reality, you are adding another fixed cost to the floor. And that creates something very real: fear of falling behind. Once you step into a lifestyle built on 2 incomes, you start fearing anything that could pull you down. Quitting a job, cutting hours, switching to a lower stress role, or having one parent stay home for a few years. Not because you do not want to, but because you cannot. You are locked into the cost structure. And the more locked in you are, the more you have to protect it by keeping the sprint going. So if you are blaming yourself, thinking, I must be bad with money, try switching the question. Do not ask, why can I not save? Ask, how many incomes is this game built on for my life? Because when society shifts toward 2 incomes, a lot of important things slowly get priced and anchored to 2 incomes. And at that point, 2 incomes are no longer an advantage. They are the condition for not getting pushed out of the game. So how do you tell how deep your family is in the trap? Okay, now we are not talking about feelings anymore. We are talking numbers. Grab your phone. Open notes. Do this in exactly 2 minutes. This test is called the One Paycheck Reality Check. The goal is to see whether your family is living on a foundation or living on hope nothing goes wrong. Step 1. Take the monthly take-home pay of the higher earner. Not both incomes, just one person. Call it A. For example, Theo. After deductions, Theo brings home about $4,400 a month. A equals 4,400. Step 2. Subtract the 5. If you do not pay it, everything jams expenses. Call the total B. Housing, meaning rent or mortgage, plus property taxes or a homeowners association fee. Childcare, minimum health care, minimum transportation you need to get to work, minimum debt payments like student loans or the minimum payment on a credit card. Now apply it to Emily and Theo. A equals 4,400. Subtract housing at 2,850. You have 1,550 left. Subtract childcare at 1,850. You are at negative 300. You can stop right there. That already tells you everything. If A is negative before you even get to food, that means your family is required to have 2 incomes just to stand still. Quick score. If A minus B is below 0, the trap is severe. If a minus B is from 0 to 500, the trap is moderate, meaning one surprise can punch a hole in you fast. If A minus B is above 1,000, you have breathing room. 20-second checklist. Just tick it in your head. You use a credit card for car repairs or medical visits. You still do not have a 3-month emergency fund. Your fixed costs are over 70% of your income. Every month you are basically thinking, please do not let anything extra happen. If you tick 3 or more, it is not that you are bad. You are locked in by the floor. And the good news is, once you can measure the trap, you can actually escape it. Now we get to the most important part, escaping without living miserably. I call this model the One Income Foundation. Build a base so your family can operate on 1 income for 3 to 6 months and use the second income to build assets. Does that sound like going back to 1 paycheck? No. The goal is not for Emily to quit or for Theo to quit. The goal is, if one person loses income, the house does not collapse. This model has 3 levels, like a building. Level 1, foundation, your base lifestyle. This is the floor. You have to lower it to a level that 1 income can carry. You do not need perfect. You need the right direction. Do not start by cutting coffee. Look at the 3 big blocks. Housing. You do not need the cheapest place. You need a place that lets you breathe. If you run the numbers on 1 income and housing eats more than half, that foundation is fragile. Real options. Downsize, pick a more reasonable area, rent for a season, or optimize the extra costs. Childcare. This is the one that makes people feel like they have no choice. But most families still have a few levers. Staggered work shifts, splitting pickup and drop-off, nanny sharing, family help if you have it, and optimizing the total hours of daycare. The goal is not the absolute cheapest. The goal is to feel less locked in. Cars. A lot of families leak money because they have 2 car payments at the same time. If you can go from 2 payments down to 1, or switch 1 car to a paid-off car, the floor drops fast. A car is not for proving we are doing fine. A car is for protecting cash flow. Level 2. Buffer, the shock absorber. Once the base starts coming down, you build a buffer so one surprise does not kill you. There are 2 main pieces, an emergency fund and basic risk protection. The emergency fund does not need to look pretty. It needs to be enough. Start with a small milestone, $1,000, then $3,000, then 1 month of expenses, then 3 months. The key point, this fund is not for getting rich. It is so you do not have to borrow when something happens. At the same time, clean up the most draining thing, high interest debt. You cannot build a buffer while there is a hole under the floor. Level 3. Growth, building wealth. This is when the second income finally does the job it is supposed to do, building long-term assets. But to make that happen, you need a firewall. I call it the dual income firewall. When the second paycheck hits, it automatically flows in this order. Emergency fund milestones, pay off high-interest debt, investing, and retirement. The difference between 2 incomes and still stuck and 2 incomes and getting ahead is this. Stuck people use the second income to upgrade their lifestyle. People who get ahead use the second income to upgrade their foundation. And I know the common pushback. We are exhausted. How are we supposed to have discipline? Correct. That is why you need a small system to reduce the time poverty costs. Cap eating out with a quota, for example, twice a week, not based on emotions. Review subscriptions every month and cancel what you do not use. Keep 2 or 3 quick rescue meals ready so you do not get dragged into ordering food at 9 at night. Now tie it all together into one single, crystal clear target. Your family needs to move toward this state. 1 income can carry the floor, and the other income becomes assets. If you do it right, something weird happens. You do not just have more money, you have more time, you fight less, and your money decisions feel less panicked. Because you are no longer living in the mode of, we just need to survive this month. Now let's apply the model to Emily and Theo's actual household, so this stops being theory. Step 1. They redo the 1 income test. The result is obvious. If you only count Theo's take-home pay and subtract housing plus daycare, they are already negative. That means they do not need to beat themselves up for not saving. They need to lower the floor. Their priority is not to cut eating out first. It is the 3 big moves. Move 1. Cars. They keep 1 reliable car. The other car gets swapped for a paid-off car. The car payment and insurance drop, and the floor drops immediately. Move 2. Childcare. They cannot eliminate daycare, but they can reduce the hours. Emily shifts her schedule 2 days a week, and Theo does earlier pickup. That lowers the bill, and, more importantly, lowers the risk of getting trapped by the schedule. Move 3. Housing. They face it head-on. A great neighborhood is great, but if it turns the family into a bill-paying machine, Liam does not actually benefit from that either. So they choose a middle path, a smaller place, optimized costs, and a shorter commute to save both time and money. After those 3 moves, they build the firewall. When Emily's paycheck hits, it is automatically split. 1 part goes to the emergency fund, 1 part wipes out high-interest debt, and the rest goes to retirement and investing. They do not wait to see what is left at the end of the month. Because if you wait, almost nothing is left. Almost every time. And here are 2 common mistakes that make a lot of families fail. Mistake 1. Cutting small expenses while keeping the big blocks unchanged. You work harder, and the outcome barely moves. Mistake 2. Every raise becomes a higher floor. You think you are leveling up, but you are really just lifting the cost frame even higher. If you only remember one line, remember this. Do not optimize the small stuff first. Optimize the floor. Because when the floor comes down, you naturally get breathing room, and money finally starts staying with you. To wrap it up, you are not stuck because you lack willpower. A lot of people are living inside a structure where the floor is anchored to 2 incomes. The way out is not running faster forever. It is lowering the floor so 1 income can still keep the system running. The bottom line is, you are not broke because you do not make enough. You are broke because the floor is too high. If this video helped you see the problem clearly, hit like and subscribe. And you? What is the biggest thing eating your family's money, housing, childcare, or cars? Comment one word and tell me.